I still remember the first time I realized my sister didn't see me as a person anymore. My name's Caleb. I'm 29 now, and for most of my life, I played the role of the safe sibling. You know the type, quiet, dependable, didn't make waves, didn't get in trouble. While other kids were sneaking out or partying in high school, I was in the garage rebuilding a busted carburetor just for the fun of it, or coding little game engines on my beat-up laptop. It wasn't glamorous. No one ever asked me what I was up to at dinner, but I didn't mind. I liked being invisible back then, until invisibility started being used against me. My younger sister, Clara, she's 26, was always the loud one, the pretty one, the star of every family gathering. If I fixed a neighbor's broken engine, she'd show up wearing something flashy, and suddenly everyone would be talking about her new hairstyle or her audition. If I got a scholarship, Clara had just landed some modeling gig or was dating a guy with a flashy car and a YouTube channel. It didn't matter that I'd been grinding behind the scenes, building a real career, starting my own company out of my apartment while working night shifts. To everyone else, Clara was the winner of the family. And me? Just the guy in the hoodie who dabbled in tech stuff. My parents, well, they didn't help. Mom called me her little inventor when guests were around, like I was still 10 and building Lego towers. Dad just nodded silently whenever I mentioned something I was working on, like he couldn't quite keep up and had stopped trying. Meanwhile, Clara's every move was broadcast like a Super Bowl ad. She was dating a minor actor once, and you'd think she'd brought home Brad Pitt. She even called a family meeting to announce it. I wish I was kidding. I mostly stayed quiet, gritting my teeth and letting things slide. I figured, let them talk. I had my own goals. I was pouring everything into my startup. Long hours, investor calls, sleepless nights. I wasn't just building a company. I was building freedom, independence, something I could be proud of without needing anyone's applause. But of course, no one in my family knew what I was really working on. Not because I was hiding it. They just never asked. And then came the engagement party. Clara had been dating this new guy, Tyler, for maybe 2 months before the invite came. The name dropped into our group chat like a pebble in a pond. Hey everyone, Tyler and I are throwing an engagement party this Saturday. Clinking glasses ring, can't wait to see you all there. No one had even known they were engaged. Mom blew up the chat with heart emojis. Dad responded with great news. I typed out congrats and deleted it twice before finally sending congrats. Looking forward to it. It felt forced, but whatever. I knew the drill. When Saturday rolled around, I showed up in a dark blazer and slacks. Nothing too flashy, but clean and sharp. The party was at a rented event hall, decked out like a low-budget wedding already. Champagne glasses lined the entrance. There was a photo booth, and someone had even hired a saxophonist. Clara was working the room like a politician at a fundraiser, arm in arm with Tyler. And Tyler, well, let's just say he had that kind of face that looked like it had never known struggle. Bleached smile, tailored suit, perfect hair. The moment he saw me, his lips curled into this smug half-smile like he'd just spotted a kid who wandered into the wrong room. Hey, you must be Caleb, he said, strolling over and giving me a once-over like I was a vending machine. Then he actually patted me on the head. The head. I'm 6 feet tall, by the way, and he still reached up to do it like I was a toddler with a toy robot. How's your little project going, buddy? He asked, loud enough that a few people nearby turned to look. There was laughter. Not cruel, but dismissive. Like background noise when someone drops a glass at a party. My jaw clenched, but I didn't let it show. I just smirked, like I hadn't heard him at all, and glanced down at my watch. 5 minutes. I gave it 5 minutes. See, Tyler had no idea who I was. He had no idea who my best man was, or that he'd be walking through those doors any second now. And when he did, I saw it. Tyler's smirk cracked. His confident posture wilted like a cheap balloon in the sun. His hand, still holding Clara's waist, slipped just a little. And he stammered, "Boss? What are you doing here?" My best man, a quiet, broad-shouldered guy in a charcoal suit, glanced at me, then looked Tyler dead in the eyes. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said. "We'll need to have a long talk Monday." The room didn't go silent exactly, but I felt it. People watching from the corners of their eyes, the shift in mood like a cold gust slipping through the hall. And that was the moment things began to spiral. But to explain how we got here, I need to go back. A few months, actually. Back before Clara met Tyler. Before the party. Before the head pat and the passive aggression wrapped in a champagne smile. Because this story didn't start here. It started with a favor I never should have done for my sister. One she never acknowledged. One she turned into ammunition. And it ends with something none of them ever saw coming. Clara wasn't always like this. Or maybe she was, and I just didn't see it. Growing up, we were tight in that uneven, older brother-younger sister way. She was loud and chaotic. I was quiet and calculated. She once convinced a whole group of neighborhood kids that I could hack into school computers, just because she'd seen me write Python scripts for fun. For a while, I thought she was just proud of me in her own weird way. But looking back, it was always about attention, making herself look clever by association. I was just the background prop that made her look more interesting. I didn't resent her at first. I figured it would balance out once we got older, that she'd outgrow the drama, and I'd get my moment once I built something real. But life doesn't wait around for balance. And the moment I made something of myself, she found a way to make it hers. About 8 months before the engagement party, I landed my first big contract. Not freelance work, not some client throwing me a couple grand. This was different. A well-funded logistics startup wanted my company to build the architecture for their internal systems. Full-stack dev, database management, even machine learning integration down the line. It was the kind of deal that could make or break a young company. I worked out of my apartment, running everything solo with a few remote contractors I'd found through a friend, and we delivered results fast. They were blown away. Within weeks, they offered to bring me on as a CTO with a very generous stock option. It was the kind of break you dream about. I remember telling my parents during dinner one night. Clara was there too. Of course, she was crashing at home between apartments because she needed a break from the stress of acting. She had her phone in one hand and a spoon in the other, barely listening. So, I said, trying not to sound too excited. That startup I've been working with, they just brought me on board. CTO. They want me to oversee the tech infrastructure moving forward. Mom blinked. Oh, that's good, sweetie. Like, chief technical something. Officer, I said. It's kind of a big deal. Equity, leadership, I'll be helping run the tech side of a company that could scale fast. Clara didn't even look up. Is it like a job, or still one of your side things? It's a company I helped build, I said, trying to stay calm. And yeah, it's a real job. Real office space. Real investors. Wow, she said, finally looking up. So you're, like, a tech bro now? Dad chuckled, like that was clever. Mom gave me a polite smile. We're proud of you, honey. That was it. 2 years of 16-hour days, of coding through migraines and skipping birthdays to meet deadlines. And that was the reaction. Clara went right back to scrolling on her phone, probably texting that week's boyfriend. I sat there chewing cold lasagna, wondering if maybe I was the one who was wrong for expecting more. I let it go. Again, I figured success would speak for itself. That once things took off, people would see. But success doesn't shout. It whispers. And Clara? She only listens when someone's shouting her name. About a month later, I got a call from Clara at 11 p.m. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. Hey, Caleb, she said, breathless. I need a huge favor. She'd gotten into some legal mess over a brand deal. Something about violating a contract with a rival agency. She needed help reviewing the documents. You're good with this stuff, right? You've got, like, lawyer friends or whatever. I wasn't a lawyer, obviously, but I knew how to read contracts. And yeah, one of my old high school buddies had passed the bar and owed me a favor. So I stayed up most of the night helping Clara. Got her connected to someone who could help. She got out of it with just a warning. She never said thank you. Not once. Instead, 2 weeks later, she posted a photo on Instagram with the caption, "So grateful to have friends in high places who have my back, nail polish hashtag, blessed hashtag, networking, no mention of me." I was just the guy behind the curtain again, pulling levers, solving problems, and staying invisible. It didn't stop there. She started using my name in conversations with people she wanted to impress, dropping my brother the CTO like it was a prop. I found out from one of her friends. Apparently she'd been telling people she was helping me get connected in the industry. Yeah, my brother's startup is doing well, she'd say. I got him in touch with a few people. I confronted her, calmly, pulled her aside during another family dinner, and said, Clara, stop using me to make yourself look important. She looked genuinely confused. I'm not. I'm literally just proud of you. No, you're not. You're claiming credit for things you didn't do. You never even asked what I actually do. She rolled her eyes. God, you're so sensitive. That's when it clicked for me. Clara didn't just want attention. She wanted ownership of every room, every conversation, every bit of praise that floated near our family. If someone complimented my work, she redirected it. If I did something impressive, she reframed it as something she made possible. And the worst part? No one noticed or cared until the betrayal. 3 months before the engagement party, I got word that my company was being considered for an even bigger deal. A logistics firm overseas wanted to expand into the US and needed a tech partner with scalable systems and strong leadership. We were on the shortlist. I flew out for the pitch, nailed it, and came back with a letter of intent. 2 weeks after that, Clara called me out of the blue again. Hey, so do you think your company is hiring? I was surprised. For what? Marketing, maybe? PR? Something creative. I just think it'd be cool to work with my big bro for a bit. I hesitated. This wasn't a favor about contracts or legal stuff. This was about access. She wanted in, and I should have said no. But I didn't. I said I'd think about it. Biggest mistake of my life. I talked it over with my co-founder, my best friend, Josh. The guy who would later walk into that engagement party and change everything. Josh wasn't a fan of Clara. He'd met her a few times and said she had main character syndrome. I laughed it off at first, but now I knew what he meant. Still, we agreed to bring her in on a short-term freelance basis. Low stakes. Just help with social media content, nothing sensitive. At first, it was fine. She posted some decent graphics, ran a few decent campaigns. But then she started pushing for more access. I need admin privileges if you want me to schedule posts. Can I get added to the team Slack? It'd be easier if I had access to your press contacts. I gave her crumbs. Just enough to do the job. I didn't realize she was hoarding them. 3 weeks before the engagement party, the overseas firm sent over a press request. They wanted to do a joint announcement. Clara saw the email, somehow, before I did. And she jumped the gun. She used our company email to send a statement to a media contact. A statement she wrote. One that named her as brand development lead and implied she was one of the original team members. She framed herself as part of the visionary group behind the platform. She sent it without my approval. I found out when the article went live. I sat at my desk, reading the headline over and over. U.S. tech startups bold expansion. How a young creative helped lead the way. My photo was there. Josh's too. But the whole first paragraph? It was about Clara, her background, her branding intuition, her influence on our communication strategy, things she'd barely touched. I felt like I was watching someone else steal my face and wear it like a costume. I called her. She didn't pick up. I messaged her. Nothing. Finally, I emailed her a formal warning. Josh wanted to cut her off completely. I said no. Let's not make this a war. Let's wait. Let's be strategic. So we waited. The next day, Clara posted the article on Instagram with the caption, "Proud to be part of something so much bigger than me. Just a girl with a dream, a laptop, and a vision. Hashtag startup life, hashtag boss moves." That's when I knew. She didn't just want a slice of what I built. She wanted the whole cake. And she thought no one would stop her. That was the breaking point. I stopped giving her access. I removed her from the Slack channel, changed her login credentials, cut off all privileges. When she noticed, she called me, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Hey," she said, "I think my account's not working." I deactivated it, I said flatly. "You're done." "What?" "You're done, Clara. You crossed a line. This isn't personal. This is business." She went quiet for a second, then laughed. "You're such a control freak, Caleb. No wonder you'll always be working in the shadows." Click. 3 weeks later, she got engaged to Tyler. And when I walked into that party, when he patted my head and mocked my little project, I realized they were made for each other. But neither of them knew what I had planned. And they definitely didn't know who Josh was. Not yet. After the engagement party, I didn't say a word. Not to Clara. Not to Tyler. Not to my parents. Not even to Josh, who gave me a long, searching look as we left that rented event hall with its glittery backdrops and fake gold cutlery. "Want to grab a drink?" he asked once we got outside. I shook my head. Not tonight. I drove home in silence, hands clenched on the steering wheel the entire way. The streets were mostly empty by then, just flickering traffic lights and the hum of my tires on pavement. I parked, walked up to my apartment, and just stood in the doorway for a long time. Shoes still on, jacket still buttoned, that damn party still echoing in my ears. "Buddy," Tyler had said. Buddy. I knew people like him. The kind that smiled with their whole face, while saying things that chipped away at your spine. Guys who smelled like cologne, power, and entitlement. Guys who stepped into rooms like they owned them, because they usually did, or thought they did. Clara hadn't just chosen someone like Tyler, she'd chosen him. The worst possible version of everything I hated about the world I was trying to rise in. And he had no idea who I was. Or that Josh, my best friend, my co-founder, the one he stammered boss to in horror, wasn't just attending the party out of loyalty. He was there because we both knew what was coming, what was brewing. But that night, I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel clever or patient or strategic. I just felt small. I sank onto my couch, still in my blazer, and stared at the ceiling. The city lights flickered across the walls like broken code. My thoughts were racing, but they had nowhere to go. And for the first time in a long time, I wondered if maybe everyone had been right about me all along. That maybe I was the background guy, the little project guy, the one who builds and watches others take credit. It wasn't just Clara and Tyler that got under my skin. It was the whole pattern of it. Every time I tried to make something of myself, someone louder took the spotlight. Every time I succeeded, someone more charming, more relatable, someone with a better smile or a louder laugh, stepped in and absorbed the praise. And I let them. That was the worst part. I let them. I let Clara use me for clout. Let my parents dismiss my wins. Let Tyler pat me like I was a child holding a Lego set. I sat there until the sun came up. And then, quietly, I began to change. The next few weeks were quiet. I buried myself in work, but it wasn't like before. This time, I wasn't just building a company. I was building leverage. First, I called Josh. "We need to talk about Clara," I said. He didn't hesitate. "What did she do now?" "I want to run a full audit on everything she touched. Every document, every client interaction, every post." He whistled softly. "You thinking legal?" "Not yet. Just documentation. I want a trail." Josh didn't argue. He never did when I got that tone in my voice. Second, I made myself scarce. I stopped showing up to family dinners. Ignored Clara's passive-aggressive messages. Dodged Mom's texts asking why I hadn't congratulated Clara on her big modeling opportunity. I didn't even know what that meant, and I didn't care. Let them wonder. Let them fill in the blanks. Third, I started going to the gym again. It wasn't about looking good, though that was a nice side effect. It was about control, about reclaiming something. I hadn't touched a weight in over a year, and my body felt it. The first week was brutal. I couldn't lift my arms without wincing. But every rep, every drop of sweat, reminded me I wasn't weak. Just neglected. By others, and by myself. Then I cleaned my apartment. Not just a quick sweep. I mean a full purge. Old electronics, half-broken gadgets, piles of unopened mail, cables I hadn't touched in 5 years. Gone. I reorganized my desk. Wiped my whiteboard clean. Drew a single line across it in red marker. No more crumbs. And under that, a list. Secure investment round, finalize overseas expansion, restructure, marketing team, leverage Clara's breach, protect IP plan, reveal. It wasn't a revenge plan. Not yet. It was a rebuild. A rise. But deep down, I knew where it could lead. One night, maybe a month after the party, I got a call from my mom. "Hey, stranger," she said. "Hi, Mom. You haven't been around lately." "I've been busy." A pause. Then, "Clara's been a little upset. She said you locked her out of your company's accounts. She broke protocol. You know how she is, Caleb. She doesn't mean any harm. She lied. She stole credit. She sent a press release that almost ruined our deal." Mom sighed. She just wanted to be part of something. You know how hard things have been for her since. I cut her off. Why is it always about how hard things are for Clara? Why does she get grace and forgiveness, but I get silence? "You're stronger than her," she said, like that explained everything. "No, I'm just quieter." And I hung up. That night, I slept better than I had in months. At the office, things were moving fast. Josh and I closed the expansion deal. The foreign firm loved our pitch, and more importantly, they loved our integrity. We didn't tell them what Clara did. We didn't have to. We simply delivered, over and over again. They saw what we built, and they wanted in. We brought on 2 new developers. Hired a full-time branding lead. Not someone flashy. Not someone with a curated Instagram feed. A real professional. And we rewrote our mission statement. Tight, powerful, unapologetic. We built the platform. We built the future. And we named who did it. Me. Josh. Our team. No embellishment. Just truth. Meanwhile, Clara spiraled. She started posting weird cryptic stories. Some people are just threatened by powerful women. It's always the ones closest to you who fear your light. You can't cancel a queen. I didn't respond, but I watched. She posted a video one night, clearly tipsy, ranting about bro culture and gatekeeping. It got a few hundred views. Nothing viral, but it was enough to make a few of our mutual acquaintances raise eyebrows. Is everything okay between you two? One of them messaged me. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because something was shifting. For the first time, people were starting to notice. Not the drama, not the noise. Me. They started asking what I was building. Investors called. Podcasters reached out. A few publications asked for interviews. Not fluff pieces, but actual interest in the tech. The architecture. The vision. My name was on the patent filings. My name was on the trademark. Clara couldn't claim credit anymore. And that terrified her. The final straw came 2 weeks before the wedding. She showed up at my office. Unannounced. I was on a Zoom call with a potential partner when I saw her through the glass wall. Arms folded, sunglasses perched on her head like she was shielding herself from reality. I excused myself, walked out, and met her in the hallway. Clara, I said. We need to talk, she snapped. Make an appointment. Oh, drop the act, she said. I know you're still mad about the article. But come on, Caleb. We're family. This whole silent treatment thing, it's beneath you. I stared at her. Really stared. And for the first time, I saw it. Not confidence. Not poise. Panic. You're losing control, I said. She blinked. You're used to being the favorite. The one everyone listens to. The one who gets forgiven. But not here. Not anymore. Her voice cracked. I just wanted to be part of what you built. You wanted to own it. She didn't deny it. Tyler thinks you're being petty, she said. Tyler's a fraud, I replied. And you know it. That shook her. She looked away. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, softer now. I didn't think it mattered. It did. We stood in silence. Then she said, Are you coming to the wedding? I haven't decided. Mom will be upset if you don't. I'm not doing this for Mom. She didn't have a response to that. So she left, and I went back to my office, shut the door, and added a new line to the whiteboard. Reveal date, wedding. Because that was the moment. The moment they'd all be there. Clara, Tyler, our parents, everyone who ever looked at me like I was just the background noise to someone else's spotlight. And that's when the tables would turn. But they didn't know that yet. They still thought I was the quiet one. The little project guy, just a guest at the party. What they didn't know was that I brought the storm with me. There's a strange sort of clarity that hits when you stop chasing recognition. For most of my life, I thought if I worked hard enough, if I built something valuable enough, people would naturally see it. Respect me. But they didn't. Or maybe they saw it and just didn't care enough to look beneath the surface. Clara certainly didn't. Neither did our parents. They were too dazzled by flashbulbs and Instagram captions to recognize quiet brilliance. So I stopped hoping they would. That's when I stopped building for them and started building against them. Not out of spite, not out of anger, out of precision. They tried to erase me from my own narrative. Now I was going to make sure they could never rewrite it again. The wedding was 3 weeks away, and for the first time in years, I found myself looking forward to a family event. But first, I needed to do a few things. 1. Assess the battlefield. Clara was a creature of perception. Image was everything. She didn't need truth, she needed optics. As long as people thought she was thriving, she could keep dancing in the center of every room. Tyler was worse. He was the kind of guy who wore his net worth like cologne. His identity hinged on dominance. He had to be the most successful guy in the room, or he'd start tearing down anyone who threatened that illusion. And me? I'd finally become invisible enough to be dangerous. They didn't know I'd signed exclusive rights to our newest software system just 2 weeks prior. They didn't know we'd secured series of funding in a quiet round led by a firm Tyler had pitched to and been rejected by. They didn't know we'd moved our headquarters into a sleek, downtown loft just blocks from the event space they were using for their wedding. They didn't even know Josh had quietly looped in a compliance team to review every digital footprint Clara left during her brief employment with us, gathering timestamps, IP logs, unauthorized emails, even the original metadata from that infamous press release she sent without our approval. This wasn't petty. This was documentation. 2. Leverage Clara's weakness, her need to be seen. I started feeding her breadcrumbs. Josh thought it was risky, but I told him to trust me. I sent Clara a message for the first time in weeks. Simple. Neutral. Hey, I've been thinking about what you said when you came to the office. You were right. It's stupid to stay mad. We're family. Let's talk. She responded within 10 minutes. Oh, thank God. I've been saying the same thing to Mom. I miss you. Let's get coffee. I have updates. Of course she did. We met at a trendy cafe she loved. One of those places where the baristas wear suspenders and the menus are printed on recycled paper. She walked in like she owned the air around her, Tyler's designer jacket hanging off her shoulders. We hugged, briefly. She smelled like vanilla and ambition. So, she said, sipping her oat milk latte, what's going on in your world, Mr. CTO? I played it cool. Still working. Still building. She leaned in. I heard from a friend that your company's moving offices? That's huge. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, small upgrade. Nothing major. She smiled like she'd found a secret crack. Well, I'm booked solid. The wedding is a monster, but I've also got a brand deal launching next month. And Tyler's been talking to some venture capital folks again. Really? I said. Is he starting something new? He's working on a crypto-adjacent platform, she said, like that was a normal sentence. I nodded. Sounds volatile. She laughed too loud. You're so grounded, Caleb. That's what I always loved about you. I almost winced at that. Anyway, she continued, brushing non-existent crumbs off her lap. I've been thinking about the wedding party lineup. Mom said it might be nice if you made a little toast. Nothing dramatic, just a few words about us growing up, funny memories. You're good at writing. A toast. A few words. About us. I smiled. Yeah, I can do that. She beamed, thinking she'd won me back. But she had no idea what I'd just agreed to. 3. Build the alliance. Back at the office, Josh was waiting. I walked in, tossed my keys on the table, and sat down with the weight of 2 decades behind my shoulders. She took the bait, I said. He raised an eyebrow. She invited you to speak? She basically handed me a microphone, I said. On her wedding day, in front of everyone she wants to impress. Josh leaned back in his chair, smiling slowly. You going nuclear? I shook my head. Surgical. He reached into a folder and slid a document across the desk. Compliance report's done. You want the executive summary. Just tell me if there's enough to make her sweat. He nodded. If we wanted to press charges? We could. Unauthorized access, reputational damage, false claims of partnership, violation of NDA. I don't want to ruin her life, I said. I just want her to understand she doesn't own mine. He nodded, understanding. We'll keep it sealed. But if she ever tries this again, I finished the thought for him. We won't need to talk. Just press send. He smiled. You know, I used to think you were too soft. I was. Not anymore. 4. Reclaim the narrative. I spent the next week tightening every bolt on our systems. Public-facing pages, updated with proper bios and credits. LinkedIn profiles, streamlined. Social media, branded and curated with subtle emphasis on the real team, the real timeline, the real story. I didn't mention Clara once, but her absence said everything. I gave an interview to a mid-sized tech blog that had been following our growth. Nothing scandalous, just facts. Data. The trajectory of a 2-man startup breaking into international markets. When asked about marketing missteps, I smiled and said, we learned a lot about the importance of qualified teams and internal trust, especially when you're growing fast. It wasn't a dagger, just a scalpel. And the story started spreading. People in our network began whispering, connecting dots, questioning the version of events Clara had peddled. She tried to fight it, posting vague, inspirational rants about resilience and forgiving yourself when others won't. But people weren't buying it like they used to, because now they knew there was more to the story, and I wasn't hiding anymore. 5. Prepare the moment. The wedding was 1 week away. I bought a suit, custom fit, midnight black, no tie. I confirmed my RSVP, checked in with Josh, and prepared my speech. But I wasn't just writing words. I was designing an experience. I printed 2 envelopes, one for Clara, one for Tyler. Inside each, a carefully worded document, professional, precise, legally vetted. Clara's detailed her documented violations. It wasn't accusatory, it was a reality check. I included her timestamps, her actions, and the ways they impacted our business. Tyler's was simpler. A single-page portfolio summary. A breakdown of who our lead investors were, who turned him down, and why. One of the firms backing us, his former employer. the one that laid him off. I didn't gloat. I just laid out the math. Both envelopes went into my jacket pocket, not to be handed out, just to be ready, in case they tried anything. The night before the wedding, I stood on my balcony, looking out over the city. The air was cool, and the world felt quiet, like the pause before a chess move. The kind of silence that means something's about to shift. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry anymore, either. What I felt was control, not over them, but over myself. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. And when I walked into that wedding the next day, it wouldn't be as Clara's awkward older brother. It would be as the man who built everything they tried to steal. And this time, everyone would see it. But they had no idea what was coming next. Because when the best man stands up with the mic, it's not always to toast. Weddings always have a smell. Not just the flowers or the food, something else. Nerves, perfume, warm linen, polished wood, maybe. A kind of artificial joy, like everyone's pretending the world paused just for this day. It never does. I showed up 10 minutes early, suit crisp, shoes silent on the marble floors of the event hall. The place was dressed to impress. Long white drapes lined the walls. Candlelit centerpieces flickered at every table, and gold-trimmed everything glinted under chandeliers. Clara had spared no expense. Or, more accurately, Tyler hadn't. The guest list was loaded. People in cocktail dresses with practiced laughs. Men adjusting cufflinks and scanning the room like they were at a networking event. Half the local scene was here. Investors, influencers, brand reps, socialites, and enough photographers to make it feel like a press launch. That was no accident. This wasn't just a wedding. This was a performance. I was just taking it all in when I saw my parents. Mom spotted me first. Her face lit up like Christmas. She hurried over, arms wide. "There you are? We weren't sure you were coming." I smiled politely, told Clara I'd be here. Dad gave me the usual stiff nod. "Looking sharp, son." "Thanks," I said. Figured it was a special occasion. Before they could ask more, someone tapped my shoulder. Josh. He'd arrived in his own understated suit. Navy, no tie, clean shave. To everyone else, he looked like any other guest. But to me, he was the hammer behind the glass. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. "Everything's in place. You sure you want to go through with it?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He gave me a single nod and slipped away into the crowd. I stayed near the back as the ceremony began. Clara walked down the aisle to a carefully chosen acoustic track, eyes shimmering, lips painted into perfection. Tyler stood at the altar like he'd just closed a billion-dollar deal. The officiant spoke in poetic half-truths about love and unity. They said their vows. They kissed. And just like that, the show was complete. For now, the reception was where it all mattered. That was where the cameras were. The toasts. The branding moments. The real audience. Dinner was served. Speeches were made. Clara's maid of honor gave a sweet, slightly rehearsed speech about childhood memories and how Clara always believed she was destined for something bigger. Tyler's best man told some joke about business school and Tinder. Then the mic was handed to me. Clara caught my eye as I stood. Smiled. She thought she knew what was coming. I walked to the front slowly, each step deliberate. The mic was lighter than I expected. I cleared my throat. The room quieted. Cameras rose. "Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Caleb, Clara's older brother." Polite smiles. Some nods. One or two people clapped, unsure why. I was asked to share a few stories. I began. "You know, embarrassing childhood stuff. But I'm not going to do that." A chuckle rippled through the crowd. Clara's smile twitched. "I thought about telling you how Clara used to boss everyone around during playtime, or how she once told our neighbor I was building a robot to spy on the government, just so they'd ask her more questions." A few more laughs. "But that's not the story I want to tell." Clara's smile froze. "The truth is, this isn't the first time Clara's taken credit for something she didn't do." Dead quiet. My parents shifted in their seats. Tyler tilted his head slightly, like he wasn't sure if this was part of the act. I took a breath. 3 months ago, Clara sent out a press release under our company's name, one she wasn't authorized to write. She called herself a founding member, claimed she shaped our strategy, said she built part of our vision. Murmurs. She didn't. A pause. She wasn't part of our founding team. She wasn't on the core project. She was brought on for 3 weeks, freelance, to do a few social media tasks. And when we asked her to stay in her lane, she crossed every boundary. Now the whispers were turning heads. Tyler stood up. "Hey," he said, his voice too loud, too firm. "That's enough." I turned to him. "Sit down, Tyler. You're next." That shut him up. I faced the crowd again. You see, Clara's mistake wasn't that she tried to help. It's that she tried to own. She tried to rewrite our company's origin to center herself. She wanted to be seen as a visionary, but forgot to be one. Clara stood now too. "Caleb, stop." I looked at her. "I gave you chances. Every step of the way, I let things go. I stayed quiet. I kept building. But you didn't just want credit, Clara. You wanted control. You wanted the spotlight. No matter who you stepped on to get there." Someone's camera was still recording. Good. I turned to the guests. "If you're wondering why I'm doing this now, in front of all of you, it's because this isn't just a family issue. Clara used my company's name, our reputation, to elevate herself in your eyes. She made herself the hero of a story that wasn't hers to tell. And now, you should know the truth." Silence. No music. No clinking glasses. Just the low, reverberating sound of consequences landing. I turned to Tyler. "As for you, we've never spoken professionally, so let me fix that. You pitched to Larkbridge Capital last year, right?" He blinked. "What?" "Turned down after the second round. They didn't believe in your platform. Thought it was all noise, no signal. Where are you getting? They're one of our investors now. They funded the last round. Just thought you'd want to know what a little project can do when you're not busy patting people on the head." Tyler's face flushed the color of raw steak. I took out the envelope from my pocket, the one with the breakdown. I didn't hand it to him. Just placed it on the table in front of him. "Do with it what you want." Clara was frozen. No tears. Just panic. The kind that comes when someone's entire script has been burned mid-performance. I looked at her one last time. "Clara, I hope you find peace. But you won't find it in other people's reflections." I placed the mic back on the stand and walked away. Josh was waiting near the exit. "You did it," he said. I nodded. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "Lighter." We stepped outside. Inside, the music had resumed. The machine was trying to reboot. But the spell had broken. The photographers had turned their cameras elsewhere. Tyler never touched the envelope. Clara never followed me out. And I never looked back. A week later, a trimmed-down video clip of the speech surfaced online. Someone had uploaded it with the caption, "CTO shuts down sister's lies at her own wedding, in front of her rich fiancé." It blew up. Not millions of views, but just enough. Enough to start conversations. Enough for people to reach out, ask about the company, about our next phase, about the real story. We never had to defend ourselves again, because truth has a habit of standing tall once it's no longer hiding. Months passed. The company soared. I kept working. Quietly. Cleanly. My parents never brought up the wedding. They never apologized either. But that didn't matter anymore. Because I wasn't chasing approval. I had found something better. Control. Clarity. Purpose. And the deep, satisfying knowledge that when the world finally stopped mistaking silence for weakness, I was the one holding the mic.